Hello, guys. Am I gonna give advice to people who give advice today? Yeah, it's it was basically the idea. It sounds bad, but anyway, it's essentially what I'm gonna do. Here's the thing. I've seen a few. Not that I watch many. I have to say this. I don't watch many advice YouTubers. I watch sometimes people who give advice on TikTok, but that's another thing. Here's the thing. I've seen a lot of people, especially girls. I don't know. I don't really watch advice by men, but maybe I should. I don't know. I don't know what they talk about. Grind set mindset, I guess. But mm, was that too red? Okay, that was better. And I see that a lot of people make videos where like it looks good, like everything. Obviously, I'm not wearing makeup right now, I'm wearing my pajamas, you know what I mean, like my background is not really interesting, and all these people have these like really put together videos, like they are edited and they are probably even subtitled, and the background is like beautiful. They have a full face of makeup and whatever this, well, for the girls usually, and they give advice that is good. They give advice that is good, but what I see that they're lacking is telling a story that backs it. You know what I mean? Like, call me a narcissist for always talking about myself on my videos, but it is. Here's the thing. I think in order to give advice, or in order to tell you guys something, that I learned, like a life lesson that I had, I have to tell you the story, related to that. Like, how did I learn that lesson? How did I realize this thing? Why do I think this way? Because this thing happened, If I tell you guys a story, maybe I'm a narcissist. No, I'm not a narcissist, but maybe I'm narcissistic, because it's not the same. Maybe I'm narcissistic for talking about myself on my videos. I have to admit that. But I always make sure that I tell you guys what I learned from the story. Like, what did I learn? What would I change? Do I want to go through this again or whatever? I'm just making it up. But like, usually I tell you guys what I realized or what I learned from that experience. And sometimes I see that there's people who, I mean, especially after the Wizard list, after she blew up, that was the word. Yeah, there was just like this trend of like, people giving advice everywhere. And I'm not saying it's bad. I mean, everybody has advice to give. We've all had experiences, but I would see that a lot of people wouldn't tell like stories and shit, you know? It's like, if you don't give a story, here's the thing. Like, even my dad, like, he has a podcast, right? And he usually would tell stories that would illustrate the lessons or the whatever he was talking about, but he tells it in other people's, like, you know what I mean? Like, he would never tell a story that happened to him. He would tell stories that would happen to other people, because he felt bad talking about himself. But and I talk about myself, so do you know what I mean? And but the thing is, like, you have to still tell a story. There's a lot of people who, if you don't go through what I mean is, if you don't go through the thing that you're giving your advice on, like, how are people going to believe that? Why listen? Why do my friends, what do I think my friends don't listen to me when I give them advice regarding boys? I've never had a boyfriend. Like, how, you know what I mean? Like, if you know that about me, if you take my relationship advice or whatever, maybe you may think that it's good advice or not. But if I tell you that I've never had a boyfriend, you're going to be like, why should I follow your advice? You ain't even ever had a boyfriend. Do you know what I mean? Like, why should I follow your advice? You can't even, do you know what I mean? Like it's, I know that. You know what I mean? Like, I think my advice is good. That's why I give it. But right now I choose not to give it because I've never had a boyfriend. And I know that there's a lot of people who are going to, I know that, I can't talk. I know that there's people who are going to discredit me or undervalue, I guess, that my advice, or, what do you call it? Or undermine, what do you call it? Like, I don't know, underrated or whatever, because I've never had a boyfriend. So that is why, if I've gone through it, if I've had an experience related to that, I give the advice based on that experience. Because if you're telling me that you're going to be sitting here making a video about advice and stuff like that, and you're like, no, but I don't want to be like, I don't want to make it about me, I don't want to tell my personal stories because of whatever, it makes it impersonal. Because it's like, how did you learn that story? How did you learn that lesson? Why are you giving me that advice? Did that happen to you? Did that happen to somebody? You know what I mean? Like, you have to give something that people can hold on to. Like, you have to give that, like, I don't know, that credibility, if that makes sense. Like, you need to be, I'm not saying an expert, but like, if you went through it, if you learned your experience through personal experience, now, if you learned that lesson through personal experience, do you know what I mean? You better share that shit. You know what I mean? because you're showing your human side. If I was just here giving you advice, like, okay, reasons why you should do this and that and whatnot, or like, this is the advice that I would give to somebody who's like, I don't know, starting college or whatever. If I don't say, like, if I don't explain things like, okay, I advise you guys to do this and that, whatever, because this happened to me. If I don't say anything, people are going to be like, did this bitch even go to college? Like, why is she not, like, explaining why? You know what I mean? Like, why is she not telling her personal stories? You know what I mean? Like, how do you know that I didn't ChatGPT? Okay, somebody liked my story. Okay. I was like, what the fuck was that? Like, how do you know that I didn't ChatGPT my bullet points, you know? Okay, ChatGPT, give me reasons why you should break up with your ex or whatever, why you should never go back with your ex or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? But if I had an ex, imagine I had an ex, and I tell my story, people are going to be like, oh, that's why she's saying that. That's where she's coming from. You know, I give my advice. I'm not saying my advice is right, but I'm giving you my advice based on my experience. Somebody else probably had a different experience. They will probably give you a different piece of advice. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's human. Giving advice is something human, you know? You have to show your human side. You have to show this part of yourself that went through it. If I'm just explaining a bunch of bullet points, even if I didn't get it from ChatGPT, like, how is it different from a lecture? You know what I mean? Even lecturers, like, they show examples and shit. You know what I mean? So show examples, even from personal experience. You're going to have more credibility with that, you know? For instance, my parents, I don't know how much communication you have with your parents, because apparently some people don't, but I remember, especially when I was a kid, and even today, like, if I go through something worries me, or I don't know what to do in a certain situation, or I feel a certain way with a certain situation, my parents will either give me advice or will, I don't know, try to comfort me by telling me a story, something that they went through, and they give me the advice based on that, or they tell me the lesson that they learned with that, or whatever it is, but they always tell me the story that's related to that. Imagine they didn't tell me the story, like, oh, do this thing. Why? Because you say so. You know what I mean? Like, you have to explain why. You know, if I advise you to, I don't know, prepare before a presentation, or prepare before you, I don't know, make a YouTube video or whatever, it's because maybe I know that if you don't prepare anything, it's going to be bad for you. You know what I mean? Like, for instance, I thought about today's topic last night before going to bed, and I did a little voice memo with all the things that I wanted to say, and I re-listened to it before making the video. You know, it's not scripted or anything. I'm not saying I recommend not scripting. That depends on the person, but do you know what I'm saying? Like, if I give you the advice, I have to tell you the story of why, you know? So, yeah, that was constructive criticism. I'm not coming for anybody. I couldn't even think of names, you know, if I wanted to, you know? So that's just that. So tell your personal stories. You're not a narcissist, okay? You have to, like, if you're going to give advice, like, you have to tell the story behind it. You have to. So, yeah, that was everything I wanted to say, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye.